Forget everything you think you know about the Old West. The real story wasn't about sheriffs. It was about the outlaws they failed to catch. The killers so ruthless, they broke the entire system. This is the countdown of the top 12 deadliest gunslingers the Old West couldn't stop. We're starting with a man who shot a stranger for snoring, a respectable rancher who was a cold-blooded assassin, and the most famous outlaw of them all, murdered by his own friend for a price. How many men did it take to finally stop them? The answer will shock you. Let's get to the list. But before we begin, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel to support our community. We begin with John Wesley Hardin, a man who began his killing at just 15, eventually claiming up to 44 lives. A notorious gunfighter and outlaw of the late 19th century, he saw himself as a man more sinned against than sinner. A gambling addict, he earned his money through betting and cattle. History remembers him as one of the West's most deadly marksmen, credited with killing at least 21 men in duels between 1868 and 1877, though Hardin claimed the number was closer to 44. Unsurprisingly, such a man made powerful enemies, resulting in a $4,000 bounty on his head. Unbothered, he spent his days gambling, drinking, and taking another man's wife as his lover. His parents had intended a different path, naming him after the founder of Methodism. He famously claimed he never killed anyone who didn't deserve it, though one story contradicts this. When a man named Charles Cougar snored loudly in a neighboring hotel room, Hardin fired a shot through the wall to quiet him. The snoring stopped. He had shot and killed the man by accident. The incident that sealed his infamy, however, occurred on his 21st birthday in 1874. After a drunken celebration, he dueled and killed Comanche Deputy Sheriff Charles Webb. The public outrage forced him on the run with a hefty bounty. Captured in 1877, he was sentenced to 25 years in prison. After multiple failed escapes, he reformed, studying law and theology, and even running the prison Sunday school. Pardoned in 1894, he passed the bar and moved to El Paso to practice law. His reform was short-lived. While defending a cattle thief named Martin Meraz, Hardin began an affair with his client's wife. When Martin discovered the betrayal and sought revenge, he was gunned down. Rumors swirled that Hardin had arranged the hit. The fallout was swift. On August 19, 1895, one of the lawmen involved in Meraz's death, John Selman, found Hardin in an El Paso saloon and shot him in the back of the head. It is speculated Hardin was killed for failing to pay Selman for the murder. Jim Miller, a man ruled by a ferocious temper. It was this very temper that led him to kill his first victim after a dispute. Jim wasn't always this way. Born in Van Buren, Arkansas, his family moved to Franklin, Texas as an infant. His father, a stonemason, even helped build Austin's first Capitol building. Tragedy soon struck. After his father's death, Jim's mother moved the family to her parents in Avant, Texas. Then, in 1869, his grandparents were found murdered. Though arrested, Jim was never prosecuted. He went to live with his sister and her husband, John Thomas Coop. Jim constantly argued with John, a conflict that ended on July 30, 1884. After a fight, Jim shot and killed the sleeping man, securing his first murder conviction. Sentenced to life, he was freed on a technicality. He then found work on a ranch owned by a cousin of the outlaw John Wesley Hardin. Despite his record, Jim joined the Texas Rangers, killing a man during his duties. His violent streak continued. In the summer of 1902, he killed 2 men and wounded another, claiming they were cattle thieves. He also murdered lawyer James Jarrett. Ranchers, angry that Jarrett defended farmers erecting fences, had hired Jim for $500 to kill him. Jim ambushed Jarrett at his farm, shooting him 4 times. His reign of terror ended when he and his crew were captured. While the others begged, Jim remained stoic. His only requests were for his diamond ring to go to his wife and to wear his black hat to the gallows. These were granted. Reportedly intoxicated, Jim didn't wait for the executioner. He stepped off the box himself, ending his bitter and reckless life. The name Doc Holliday, born John Henry, is synonymous with the Old West. After losing his mother to tuberculosis at 15, the deeply affected Holliday earned a dental degree and began practicing in Georgia. Soon after, he discovered he too had contracted tuberculosis, likely from his mother. Told he had little time left, doctors urged him to move to a drier climate. In October 1873, he headed for Dallas, Texas. As his health declined, he was forced to abandon dentistry. A natural gambler, he turned to cards for a living. Miserable and moody, he drank heavily. Knowing the dangers of his new profession, he dedicated himself to mastering a six-shooter and a knife. He soon put these skills to use. In January 1875, a dispute with a saloon keeper named Austin led to a gunfight. Both men were arrested unharmed. Days later, Holliday killed a prominent citizen with 2 precise shots. Again in August 1879, he confronted gunman Mike Gordon. In a street duel, Holliday invited Gordon to fire first. Gordon did and was killed, shot 3 times. Despite his deadly reputation, the disease was deadlier. The sulfurous springs he visited for a cure likely harmed his lungs further. On his deathbed, noticing his boots, he remarked on the irony of dying with them on. Doc Holliday died on November 8, 1887, but his name remains etched in history. Leslie was not just a gunslinger, but an ill-tempered one, prone to violence when drinking. He earned his nickname as an Army Scout before settling in Tombstone, Arizona, where he opened the Cosmopolitan Hotel. He soon committed his first known murder, shooting Mike Killeen over a dispute concerning Killeen's wife. Though ruled self-defense, suspicion grew when Leslie married the widow just 2 months later. His reputation for danger was cemented after he pistol-whipped a man outside the Oriental Saloon. Though accused of killing gunslinger John Ringo, he was never convicted. Ringo's friend, Billy Claiborne, was so certain of his guilt that he confronted Leslie and was shot dead for it. Even among Tombstone's notorious figures, Leslie was unusually violent. The town finally ousted him in 1889. After divorcing his wife, he had taken up with a prostitute named Blonde Molly Williams. When their relationship soured, he shot the defenseless woman in a drunken rage. With a witness's testimony, he was convicted and sentenced to 25 years. Surprisingly, he won parole with the help of a young divorcee, Belle Stowell, whom he married. But his fortunes then declined, and he vanished from history, his death remaining unknown. The story of John King Fisher was unique. He was simultaneously a rancher, outlaw, and lawman. Born in 1854, his troubles began in 1869, when he was accused of horse theft for borrowing one without permission. Arrested but released after the owner declined to press charges, Fisher soon landed in prison for housebreaking. Pardoned after 4 months, he moved to the lawless Nueces Strip. There, he established a ranch that became a haven for criminals. Through patronage and intimidation, Fisher became a regional leader, his power symbolized by a sign on his private road that read, "This is Kingfisher's Road. Take the other." Despite a life of cattle rustling and violence, he eventually sought legitimacy. Having escaped conviction, he was appointed deputy sheriff of Uvalde County in 1881. He proved an efficient lawman and planned to run for office in 1881-1884. But on March 11, 1884, he was at San Antonio's Vaudeville Variety Theater with noted gunman Ben Thompson. A quarrel between Thompson and the theater's owners erupted into a shootout. Fisher was drawn into the fight, and neither he nor Thompson survived the bloodbath. Bass Reeves faced hardship from birth. Born into slavery in 1838, he was owned by William Reeves, from whom he took his surname. He began as a water boy before graduating to field work alongside his parents. Around 1846, the Reeves household moved to Texas, where Bass was later inherited by his master's son, George, who took him to war. The exact circumstances of his freedom are unclear, but it coincided with the 1865 abolition of slavery. As a freedman, he returned to Arkansas to farm. This changed in 1875 with the appointment of Judge Isaac Parker, who tasked U.S. Marshal James Fagan with hiring deputies. Knowing of Reeves's familiarity with the territory and his skill with tribal languages, Fagan recruited him. Thus, Bass Reeves became the first black deputy marshal west of the Mississippi. A master of disguise, he might appear as a cowboy, farmer, or even an outlaw. He was renowned for bringing entire gangs to justice, always being faster on the draw. In 1889, he tracked Tom Story's gang of horse thieves. Surprising story with an arrest warrant, the outlaw went for his gun, but Reeves was faster and shot him dead. For Bass Reeves, there was no mercy for a non-compliant outlaw. The man known as Wild Bill was born James Butler Hickok, but his legend was too fierce for his given name. Though he spent only a few weeks in Deadwood, he remains its most famous resident. He arrived in July 1876 with Colorado Charlie Utter and Calamity Jane. Already a notorious gambler and gunslinger, Hickok was a man who always put himself first. Before the Civil War, he worked as a driver at Rock Creek Station, Nebraska. A financial dispute with David McCandless, the station's former owner, ended with Wild Bill killing him. His violent life met its end on August 2, 1876. While playing poker in Nuttall and Mann's Saloon, he was shot from behind by Jack McCall. The cards he held, a pair of aces and eights, would become forever known as the Dead Man's Hand. Porter Rockwell is remembered as a complex figure, a loyal bodyguard to Mormon founder Joseph Smith, known for his generosity, but also for his tenacity and ruthlessness as an Utah lawman. Few records exist, leaving even his birth date uncertain. What is known is that as a young man, he became a close friend of Joseph Smith. His family was among the earliest members of the Latter-day Saint movement, with Porter being baptized on the very day the church was founded in April 1830. He later followed the church to its gathering place in Missouri, where he became proficient with a gun. Though believed to have killed many as a religious enforcer and deputy marshal, Rockwell once stated, "I never killed anyone who didn't need killing." Yet many viewed him as an outlaw, suspecting him of murders done in service to the church. This includes the Aiken Affair of 1857, where 6 gamblers were killed while being escorted from Utah, allegedly by Rockwell. He was indicted for the murders 20 years later, but died before standing trial. You've likely heard of Billy the Kid and wondered about his fame. His story resonates because he was a kid who never had a childhood. Born Henry McCarty, he lost his father early, and his mother later died of tuberculosis, leaving Billy and his brother in a foster home. At 14, he worked diligently in a hotel, well liked by his manager. But his life changed on September 23, 1875, when he was arrested for hiding stolen clothes. The trusted boy shocked everyone by escaping 2 days later, squeezing up the jailhouse chimney to become a fugitive. With honest work now impossible, the reluctant Billy joined a rustler gang led by Jesse Evans for survival. He soon graduated to killing and stealing livestock. After a deal with the governor for his freedom fell through, he escaped once more. His story took a tragic turn with Pat Garrett. Initially a friend, Garrett was later elected sheriff and tasked with arresting Billy, who now led his own gang. Despite a $500 bounty and Garrett's relentless pursuit, Billy's cunning helped him evade capture for a time. He was finally caught in December 1880, but in a dramatic jailbreak, he killed 2 guards and fled. The escape was likely aided by a pistol hidden in an outhouse. His freedom was short-lived. The man who lived by killing 21 men soon lost his own life. Born in 1860 in Missouri, Tom Horn displayed a natural talent for hunting and marksmanship from a young age. After heading west, he took on many roles: cowboy, miner, Army scout, and deputy sheriff. However, he is most infamous for his work as a hired gun. His career in violence began with the Pinkerton Detective Agency, tracking outlaws for wealthy clients like railroads. After 4 years, he grew bored and, in 1894, became a contract killer for the Wyoming Cattlemen's Association. The cattle barons were engaged in a vigilante war against smaller farmers and ranchers, but public scrutiny forced their conflict underground. Horn became their stealthy solution, using his skills to ambush and murder men labeled as troublemakers. A ruthlessly efficient killer, he often fired from over 200 yards away, ensuring his victims never saw him. His reign ended when he was hanged in November 1903, convicted of murdering Willie Nickel, the 14-year-old son of a sheep rancher. Sam Bass was a famous outlaw and train robber who led 2 gangs in the Wild West. Surprisingly, he began as an honest young man. His life took a turn when he acquired a race pony, a little sorrel mare he raced successfully in Denton. His employer noticed Bass was neglecting his work for the pony and forced him to choose. Bass chose the pony. This decision set him on a new path. He then worked as a cowboy for Joel Collins, who had bought cattle on credit. After Collins gambled away the herd's profits, he grew desperate. He formed the Black Hills Bandits, robbing stagecoaches with little reward, but initiating Sam Bass into a life of crime. Bass continued robbing with his own gang, willing to kill when necessary. Eventually, a gunfight ensued. While attempting to flee, Bass was shot by Texas Rangers. He was later discovered in a pasture by a posse. As they were about to ride past, Bass called out, "Hey, I'm over here. I'm Sam Bass, the one you were looking for." He was taken into custody and died the next day, July 21, 1878, his 27th birthday. Finally, we have Jesse James, outlaw, train and bank robber, former Confederate guerrilla, and gang leader. He rebelled against the society of his day, becoming a folk hero often portrayed as a modern Robin Hood who stole from the rich. In reality, he was also a cold-blooded murderer, thief, and terrorist. His dangerous gang was eventually targeted and nearly wiped out. Needing allies he could trust, Jesse confided in the Ford brothers and took them into his home, unaware he was sheltering his own doom. He soon grew suspicious of them. While in his home, Jesse noticed a dusty picture. As he turned to clean it, Robert Ford drew his weapon and shot the unarmed Jesse James in the back of the head. The Ford brothers had betrayed their friend for a government reward. So, there they are, the 12 deadliest men the West ever produced. But it leaves us with one final question. If Jesse James had never trusted the Ford brothers, or if Billy the Kid had actually received that pardon, would history remember them as villains or as legends? The line is thinner than you think. Let us know in the comments. Which of these 12 do you believe was the most unstoppable of them all?